How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth to recap last night's game between the Giants and the Eagles, as well as giving you my Week 6 NFL picks. So let's talk about the Giants and the Eagles, shall we? So the Giants and the Eagles both coming off of losses in Week 5. The Eagles suffering their first loss of the season to the Denver Broncos. Broncos coming back, being down 17-3. They end up winning 21-17. And then for the Giants, they were up 14-3. And the Saints scored 23 unanswered points. The Giants turned the ball over 5 times on 5 straight possessions. And after encouraging signs, they get a huge win, upset win against the Chargers in Jaxson Dart's first start. They take a step back, and they end up losing to a team that was 0-4 going into the game. So now here, I thought the Eagles were going to dismantle the Giants like they always do. The Giants were decimated with injuries, particularly when it comes to when it comes to the receiver room. No Malik, really because no Malik Neighbors. All right, and Darius Slayton being out. So you had Wan'Dale Robinson, you had Jalen Hyatt, and they had to elevate Lil Jordan Humphrey from the practice squad. So that combined with the Eagles coming off of a loss, Saquon Barkley coming into town after he went off on them in their first meeting last year, I thought the Giants were in for a tough night. But that was not the case. And the Eagles, they're dealing with injuries of their own. Guys in the secondary were banged up. Quinyon Mitchell left the game early. Reed Blankenship got banged up in this game, as well as Cooper DeJean, because I think they collided on a play. DeJean stayed in. Blankenship had to leave the game. And on top of that, Jalen Carter was dealing with an injury coming in, and he ended up not playing. So the Eagles were down some guys on the defense and also on the offensive line as well. No Landon Dickerson. And it showed, because the Giants got after Jalen Hurts. But this game did not get off to a good start for the Giants, because right away on the kickoff there was a penalty, and the Eagles were already starting at their own 40. So you think that, all right, the Eagles are going to go right down the field, score a touchdown, and away we go. So yeah, there was a penalty, and then Barkley, 2 straight runs, adds to him just owning the Giants. You would have thought he would have had a big game. 31 yards rushing in 2 plays. 18 on the first play, 13 on the second play. But that was really all he did after that. The Giants really bottled him up the rest of the way. The most yards he had after that was chasing down Cor'Dale Flott on the interception in the second half. So the Eagles had to settle for a field goal. And here come the Giants now. For the 3rd straight week in a row, they take the ball, first drive for them, first possession for them of the game. They go right down the field and score a touchdown. On 3rd and 8, Jaxson Dart stands in the pocket, and then he takes off. He's able to juke out a man and get to the end zone for a touchdown, a 20-yard touchdown run. Giants are up 7-3. And then they went down the field again. On their second possession, the Eagles did nothing. They went 3 and out very quickly. He hit Wan'Dale Robinson for 26 yards, who had a big game. And then a great play by Wan'Dale. Dart hits him along the sidelines. Wan'Dale, nice catch and run. All him on that play. He scores from 35 yards out. Giants are up 13-3. They miss the extra point. But then the Eagles responded. After the Giants missed the extra point, I said, well, that's going to come back to bite them. But it never did. The Eagles did go down the field. Hurts hit A.J. Brown for 30 yards. Another 23 yards to Goddard, who had a big game. And then they did that shuffle pass to Goddard near the end zone, and he was able to score from 3 yards out, and it was 13-10. So then this is where I thought the Eagles were going to take over, because then they ended up taking the lead later. Hurts, the tush push, and we'll talk about the tush push after we recap the game here, but they ran the tush push 4 straight times, and they were able to get into the end zone finally for the score. So once the Eagles go up 17-13, I was like, yeah, this is where all the momentum's going. Philly, they're going to run away with this thing. But the Giants, to their credit, they didn't blink. They responded. Cam Skattebo scores his first touchdown of the game. He ended up with 3 on the night, had a huge day, outshined Saquon Barkley, and the Giants were up 20-17 at the end of the half. And what was interesting, and I thought this was going to hurt the Giants, was Dable called a timeout with 15 seconds left in the half, and I thought that the Eagles were going to make a play, get into field goal range, and it was going to end up being 20-20 all. But that ended up not happening. Because the Eagles had no timeouts. Eagles ran out of time. Clock expired. Eagles didn't get a chance to run another play before the end of the half as the clock was expiring. So it was 2017 Giants at the half. A couple of punts by both teams, and then the Giants, they score a touchdown. Cam Skattebo again from 1 yard out, and they're up 27-17. Both teams exchanged punts, and then this is when you had a feeling that the Giants were going to win this game. Is when Jalen Hurts, the Eagles are driving, he throws a pick. Cor'Dale Flott picks him off, and like I said, Barkley's got to chase him down. I thought it was going to be a pick six, but then Barkley shoves him out of bounds. The Giants then later scored. That was Skattebo's third touchdown of the game. Eagles were driving. Barkley actually wasn't even on the field for this. Hurts connected with A.J. Dillon, who then ended up fumbling. Giants get the ball back, and they run the clock out, and they win 34-17. But a scary moment in the middle of the game because Jaxson Dart ended up colliding with an Eagles player's head, hit the knee of an Eagles player. I forget the Eagles player that it was. But, I think it was... No, it was not that. It wasn't that play. I thought I found it. But collided with an Eagles player. Actually, Blankenship actually came back in the game. And he had to go into the blue tent to be evaluated for a concussion. So Russell Wilson had to come out for a play. And he threw the pass in the ground. Now, it was batted at the line. But he ended up throwing the ball at the ground. And the Giants had to punt. And the crowd was not happy. They started booing. Which, is kind of unfair to Russ. But that's what ended up happening. Actually, no. The first play, he completed a pass to Tracy. It was a check down. But then he's trying to hit Jalen Hyatt on 3rd and 9. And like I said, the pass got batted. And the Giants had to punt. And Russ got booed. Which, again, not fair. Tough spot for him to get in. But Dable was just so animated on the sidelines with the Giants physician. You had him and Skattebo going into the medical tent saying, what's going on? You need him back out there. And I guess, he didn't like what the physician was telling him, but Dart did come back into the game. But you could tell, like, Dable is heavily relying on Dart to save his job. Because he knows what's on the line here. And if Dart's out and you got to put Russ in, we've seen how Russ looks outside of the Cowboys game. Not good. But Dart was able to come back in the game. And actually, the NFL is looking into that situation because of how fast Dart was able to clear concussion protocol. So, yeah, there was that. Giant fans were holding their breath because if Russ had to play the rest of the game, that potentially could have opened the door for the Eagles to come back and get back in the game. So, yeah. But luckily, Dart came back in. Hurts throws the pick. Giants score a touchdown. Eagles fumble again. Giants run out the clock. They win 34-17. How about that? And the Eagles have dropped to 4-2 now. They lose 2 straight games. Giants won the turnover battle. The Giants were very impressive on 3rd down. 11 for 16. Anytime they needed to make a play. Theo Johnson had a big 3rd down catch at one point in this game. Jaxson Dart made plays when he had to. Eagles were 1 for 9 on 3rd down. Giants ran 11 more plays than the Eagles. And the Eagles actually averaged 6.1 yards per play to the Giants' 5.5. And the Eagles had some missed opportunities, too. There was a play that set up the touchdown, I think, to put the Giants up 27-17 at that point. Hurts has a wide-open Devontae Smith. They were deep in their own territory, the Eagles. Devontae Smith is wide open, blown coverage. Nobody's around him. That would have been a walk-in touchdown. That would have been a huge momentum shift for the Eagles. And Hurts couldn't connect with Devontae Smith on that. So there was that. And the turnovers. Turnovers were a problem at the end that made a difference. Well, more so the interception. And the Eagles just couldn't get anything really going on the ground. I thought Barkley was going to have, over 150 yards again. But he only finished with 58. That's it. And Dallas Goedert ended up being the leading receiver for the Eagles. A.J. Brown had 6 for 80. Devontae Smith had 4 for 49. Eagles defense did get to Dart a couple times. Giants defense, when they needed to make plays and get after Hurts, they did. Brian Burns made his presence felt. He had a couple of sacks last night of Hurts. And again, Cor'Dale Flott with the signature play, the pick that set the Giants up for another Skattebo touchdown. The Giants ran the ball for 172 yards on 39 attempts. 4 rushing touchdowns, 3 from Skattebo, 1 from Dart. And you look at what happened the previous night with the Yankees. I mean, New Yorkers were looking for something. You know, the Yankee fans, there are Giant fans that are Yankee fans, there are Jet fans that are Yankee fans. The Giant fans are thrilled. This was a huge win. You thought that Chargers win was a signature win. This one, I think, dethrones that because of the team that it's against and just, you know, they hadn't won a game on Thursday night in 10 years. The last time they won was 2015 against the then Washington Redskins. It's a big win. It's a big win. The defense came up big and made plays. Jaxson Dart made plays. Skattebo has been unbelievable. And he's making somebody look really, really dumb for dropping him after week 1 in his main fantasy league. Not going to say who it is, but yeah, making them look really, really dumb, like I said. They're changing the culture. They're changing the culture. And you really, obviously it's easier to say now, but you wonder how this season would be, what their record would be had they started Dart from day 1. You know, would they have beaten Washington? Would they have beaten Dallas? I think Dallas, they probably do. I mean, the Saints, they should have won. They were up 14-3. And the turnovers killed them. Turned the ball over 5 times in 5 straight possessions. So, you know, 2-4, and you beat good teams. You beat the Chargers, you beat the Eagles. That's nothing to ignore. Those are legitimate teams. One of them is the defending Super Bowl champs. So, it was a big deal. That was a big deal. That was a great win. Good for the Giants, giving their fans something to be happy about, something to be proud of. Dable gave John Mara the game ball after the game, which I thought was a really nice gesture. Also, I mean, Skattebo and Ryan Fitzpatrick, if you saw it on the Amazon Prime post-game show, this guy's a football player, man. This guy was a steal. I mean, the individual took that took Skattebo in my main league, took him in the 11th round. That's a great pick until you dropped him. Giants took him in the 4th round. He's a football player. And he brings an attitude that this team has been missing for years. And Dart, he looks good. He looks good. Listen, he played a lot of college football. You know, he was not a raw prospect coming in. And he's showing it. This, again, might be premature, but he looks better than how Daniel Jones looked. Because I brought this up last night to my friends. Daniel Jones, he beat Jameis Winston and the Buccaneers. They won on a missed field goal. He did play great in the game. But I'm just saying, they beat the Bucs who weren't that good because of Jameis. And then you beat Washington the following week, and they also weren't good. Dwayne Haskins was turning the ball over a bunch of times. You know, it was, Daniel Jones won his first 2 games, but then once he started going up against better competition, Giants weren't winning games. With Jaxson Dart and the Giants now, they beat 2 good teams in this gauntlet of a schedule. So now, not to say that they're going to win a lot of games, but they should be in a lot of games with how they're competing. And that's what I said going in. I'm not expecting them to win a lot of games. I said 7 wins, which I think they could get. But I expect them to be competitive and not to be walked all over. They lost last week against the Saints because they turned the ball over a bunch of times. If they can clean that up, they're going to be in a lot of games. Now, they got to figure out receivers. I mean, little Jordan Humphrey made a very nice catch last night. Wandell was making plays. Even Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt had a couple of nice catches, even though one of them it ended up being a pass interference, but he should have caught that touchdown. That would have been a touchdown. The Giants did end up scoring on that. But, even with the lack of receivers they had last night, they made plays. You know, like I said, Theo Johnson, Huge third down catch at one point in the game. So it was a good win for the Giants. It's just unfortunate that Neighbors is not there. Because with Neighbors, think about what he would be doing. So, yeah, no, they got a tough game next week against the Broncos in Denver. It's going to be a tough game. Good defense. They're playing well now. Coming off of that big win against the Eagles. They're going to be playing the Jets early Sunday morning. So it's going to be tough. And then they got the Eagles again. Turn around and all of a sudden you're heading to Philly to take on the Eagles again. And maybe it's possible. For the first time since 2013, maybe. Pull off an upset, maybe? Maybe? I know. The problem is I don't want to get too ahead of myself because then, against the Broncos, you get knocked down a peg, back to reality, and then the Eagles are ready this time. They got Jalen Carter back. They got guys back in the secondary, and then they end up beating up on the Giants. But at least for the moment, you can enjoy this win because this was a huge Giant win. I forgot to mention Skattebo. Knocks Zach Bond down, goes right at him, knocks him over. He's going to be all over the stadium, his jersey in a few weeks. And then on top of that also, again, the secondary was a problem. Giants are picking on the guy Ringo in the secondary. He had a rough night. Eagles are just not the same team they were last year. They're not. But they could right the ship. They definitely can. Barkley's got to get it going. And how about this? His documentary that came out, right? That comes out. It reveals that he wanted to, he requested a trade, I think prior to the 2023 season. And the Giants didn't grant him that. And, it's just the whole Saquon Barkley situation put a dark cloud over the Giants. Now, he ended up winning the Super Bowl, so you can't take that away from him. He was one of the main reasons they won last year. But now, last night, the Giants got to laugh a little bit, got to pump their chest out a little bit, literally and figuratively, if you watch the Amazon Prime post game. Because Barkley did nothing last night. Giants smothered him all night after those first two runs. And Skattebo outshined him. So maybe the tides are changing. But hey, when it comes to New York football, anytime there's a sign or there's some kind of win, especially last night, where you think, all right, this is it. This is where things are going to change. Most of the time it doesn't. So the Giants have to continue to build on this. And that will get fans to really start believe the direction that this team is going in. But that was a big win. That put a smile on my face. And I took the Eagles last night. I said the Eagles were going to dominate. But with all the injuries and the inability to run the football and Hurts not his best game, Eagles got some issues. But you know what? Like I said, still got a long way to go. They're still in a good spot. I'm not going to hit the panic button with them just yet. So, now let's get into the picks. So I already started off 0-1. So, we go to the morning game. Broncos-Jets. Jets are 7.5-point underdogs. Broncos coming off of the win against the Eagles. Look, I'm sorry. I got to take the Broncos. Got to take the Broncos to win and cover. The Jets, they are one of the most penalized teams in the league once again. Offensive line is going to have an issue with this Broncos pass rush. This Jets defense can't really stop anybody. I got to go with the Broncos. So Broncos win and cover. Steelers and the Browns is interesting. All right, so the Browns, they traded Flacco. He's now going to be with the Bengals, and he's actually going to be starting against the Packers. And he beat the Packers not too long ago with the Browns in Cleveland. Dylan Gabriel's second career start. I thought he was okay. I thought Quinshon Judkins looked like an absolute stud in that game against the Vikings. Steelers coming off of a bye. Alex Highsmith, Joey Porter Jr., and Jaylen Warren are all going to be back for this game. Steelers off the bye, beat the Vikings the week before. Rodgers is getting a little bit more comfortable in this offense. Maybe the offensive line worked on some things over the bye. Browns got a really good defense. I could definitely see the Browns covering. But this Steelers defense can take the ball away. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. But I think the Steelers cover the number. They win by at least a touchdown. I think Gabriel has some turnovers in this game. Steelers win. They improve to 4-1. And right now, they're in the driver's seat for the division. The way the Ravens are struggling with their injuries and the Bengals, everything going on there. And the Browns starting a rookie quarterback. Steelers division to lose right now. So I'm taking the Steelers. Then we got, speaking of the Ravens, they're also 7.5-point underdogs at home against the Rams, coming off of that loss against the 49ers, against the shorthanded 49ers. Now they're going up against another team that's shorthanded. Ravens really got beat up by the Texans. Texans put up 40 points, over 40 points against them. But, with all this time off in between, Ravens' defense is not good. Rams got a good defense that I think is going to get after Cooper Rush. I like the Rams to bounce back in this spot and get the win. I know they got to come all the way across the country to play against the Ravens. This is actually my Super Bowl prediction, and it's not looking good right now when it comes to the Ravens. But I'm going to take the Rams to win and cover. Then we got the Cowboys and the Panthers. Panthers are 3-point underdogs. They're coming off a comeback win against the Dolphins. They were down 17-0, and they came back. Cowboys, they did whatever they could do against the Jets, had their way. Panthers are getting 3 points. I'm going to take the Cowboys. Although I don't trust the Cowboys' defense. But Dak and that offense they're looking really good. So I think they're going to continue to put up numbers. CeeDee Lamb is going to be back soon. Jacob Ferguson has looked good. The running game has looked good. And the offenses looked really good. So I'm going to take them over the Panthers in this spot. Cardinals and the Colts. Cardinals, how did you lose that game? I don't understand it. I really don't. Colts, listen, after that loss to the Rams, they just pick up where they left off, keep winning games. Right now the line is 7. I know I went off on the Cardinals last week after their loss, or this week after their loss earlier in the week. But I'm going to take the Cardinals with the points. I'm going to take them with the points. That's a lot of points, and I don't think the Cardinals are an awful team. It's just, I don't know how you choke these games. I really don't. So I think this game is within a touchdown. So I like the Cardinals to cover, but I'm going to take the Colts to win. This game, though, is really tough for me. Jaguars 1.5-point underdogs at home against the Seahawks. Seahawks coming off of that 38-35 shootout loss to the Bucks. Jags coming off of that big win against the Chiefs. I'm so conflicted because that was such a big win for the Jags. I could see them coming back down to earth. And the Seahawks have a good defense, and defense does travel. But also, they're coming across country to play the Jags. And if you remember, when Darnold was with the Vikings last year, they won 9-0 against the Jags? And the Jags weren't good last year. And you could argue Darnold had a better team last year. He did have a better team last year. But this Seahawks team is still very good. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm leaning towards taking the Jags here in this spot, getting the win, and continue to build momentum. Again, credit to Liam Cohen and that coaching staff, and Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne. The defense is taking the ball away. That was one of my biggest concerns going into the season is the defense, but the defense is taking the ball away. I'd like to see Brian Thomas Jr. get it going more in this game. I think that's something that everybody's waiting for, is for him to explode. Trevor Lawrence has got to do a better job at protecting the football. But, yeah, I think this is going to be an even matchup, but I'm going to lean towards the home team. I'm going to take the Jags. This game is tough, but I think I'm going to go with the points here, even though I don't feel great about it. Chargers, another team coming across country, take on the Dolphins. Dolphins are getting 4.5 at home. The problem is, look, if the Chargers were healthy, I would take the Chargers. The problem is the Chargers are not healthy. They are missing key pieces on the offensive line, both tackles. They're missing Mekhi Becton also, right? Um, that's an issue. Also, like one of their other tackles, they're missing. They're missing several key guys, right? Don't they have Mekhi Becton, right? Or the Eagles actually? Where is Mekhi Becton now? Because he was with the Eagles last year. Isn't he still with the Eagles? No, he's with the Chargers. Yeah, so they don't have him. I know, I was second-guessing myself there. But yeah, they're missing key pieces on the offensive line. Their tackles and their backup tackles. And on top of that, Omarion Hampton is on IR. After it looked like he was going to take off. So now they got Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal. It's going to be a problem. And we saw Justin Herbert, after they were up 10-0, Commanders scored 27 unanswered points. Herbert really struggled. The defense, I mean, they gave up a ton of yards to that rushing attack of the Commanders. And you know the Dolphins are going to want to run the football, obviously, with Achane. Actually, I think isn't Achane questionable for this game too? I might be wrong. I mean, Achane, for the most part, is always on the injury report. But, no, it looks like he's fine. So it's going to be an issue. So I do like the Dolphins to cover in this spot. I think I'm still going to lean towards the Chargers winning. But I think it's going to be a close game. Okay, I think it's going to be a close game. But yeah, the Dolphins are just, it's just not looking good for them. 1-4 on the season. You blow a 17-0 lead. But I think they got a shot in this game. I do. All right, and then we got the final early slate game, Patriots-Saints. This one's another one that's tough because the Saints, they played well last week against the Giants. They've outside of the Seattle game, they've really been competitive in every single one of their games. The 3.5-point underdogs. The Patriots are coming off of that big win over the Bills in Buffalo. But I think the Patriots are the better team. I don't think they're not going to turn the ball over 5 times on 5 straight possessions. Stephon Diggs really got it going. Even though the fumbles were an issue for the Patriots, they didn't waver. They still ended up winning the game. Drake May looks good. The defense is coming along. I think they'll make Spencer Rattler's life difficult. Alvin Kamara is a little banged up going into this game. He's iffy on playing, I believe. He was on the injury report. I'm going to take the Patriots to win and cover in this spot. All right. So we'll get this game out of the way. This game's tough because the points are so big. Packers are 14.5-point favorites over the Bengals at home. Joe Flacco getting the start, like I said. Look, the Packers are coming off of that loss against the Browns, the tie against the Cowboys, on the bye. The Bengals, they're looking for something to save their season. I don't think it's going to be Joe Flacco because this roster is not as good as that Browns roster that he took to the playoffs a couple years ago. I mean, yeah, you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but the offensive line is not good, and the defense is not good. And I think this Packers team is looking for a get-right game. I said it was the Cowboys game. That ended up not being the case. I think it's this game. You're coming off the bye. You're at home. I think the defense will feed off of the energy of the crowd. They're going to wreak havoc on Joe Flacco because Joe Flacco really can't move, and he's behind a poor offensive line. Like, yeah, he might hit some passes to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and he might not turn the ball over as much as Jake Browning, because Jake Browning with the interceptions. But I just think this Packers team is going to have their way with this Bengals team. It's a mismatch. So I know it's a lot of points, but I think the Packers win this game by more than 2 touchdowns, even though it's a huge number. I still think the Packers defense, like if they're able to apply pressure, unless the Bengals defense does a good job of protecting Flacco, I think the Packers are vulnerable in the secondary, and I think you have the receivers that could take advantage of a poor secondary, but on top, you got to have time to throw the football. You got to have time to get the ball out. So I guess look for the Bengals to try to put Flacco in certain situations where he's getting that ball out quickly. But I don't know. I think it's just going to be tough. It's going to be tough on Joe. It's a tough spot for him. But yeah, I'm taking the Packers to win and cover. It's a big line, though. Pair of 1-4 teams. The Raiders 4.5-point favorites against the Titans. The Titans somehow coming back and winning that game against the Cardinals. Geno Smith is turning the ball over like crazy. It's just I wouldn't expect the Pete Carroll coach team to be 1-4. I think it's more than just in the roster's not that great. Geno Smith is turning the ball over. I mean, on the season, he's got 6 touchdowns to 9 picks. It's not good. I mean, Genti is starting to get it going a little bit, which is good. Brock Bowers has been banged up. But yeah, for me, I'm taking the points. I think I would take the Raiders to win. But, Cam Ward finally got into a nice rhythm with Ridley, so I look for that to continue in this game. I think this is going to be a close game, And actually, Brock Bowers didn't practice again, so he might not even play. And they're actually down both tight ends. They were down him and Michael Mayer. So, yeah, I think I'll take the Titans to cover. All right, so then you got the 49ers and the Bucks. 2 teams that are banged up. I don't think Purdy's playing. I think Ricky Pearsall is doubtful. Jawan Jennings is questionable. I mean, the 49ers won last week with Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne, and who was their other receiver? Why am I forgetting? Why am I blanking? Somebody else. Oh, MVS. Those are their top 3 receivers. And then you had Tonjes, the tight end. But you had Christian McCaffrey. And you had that defense. And here, in this spot, I mean, the Bucks, they're banged up, missing receivers. There's going to be no Chris Godwin this week. There's no Bucky Irving. So I think the 49ers defense is going to keep it close. I don't think they're going to get shredded like the Seahawks defense got shredded. I think the 49ers will keep themselves in the game. I think they'll cover. I was leaning towards picking them to win, maybe, but I might go with. I think I'm going to stick with the Bucks to win, but I think this will be another close game. Baker Mayfield is playing unbelievable, and just think when you get Mike Evans back and Godwin is fully healthy, I think they should keep. Maybe they brought Godwin back a little bit too soon. Maybe they keep him out longer. But you get all of them back healthy. You get Jalen McMillan back healthy. Bucky Irving comes back. The offensive line's healthy. Maybe you make some moves maybe you make a move at the trade deadline to improve the defense. This team is really good. And it's because of Baker Mayfield in that offense. I mean, he was in a hostile environment in Seattle. And Seattle's defense is pretty good. Baker's banged up. He was unbelievable. Matching Darnold. That was a great game. What a long way he's come. That's all I got to say. But yeah, this should be a good game. Even if it's Mac Jones. Mac Jones has done a nice job filling in for Purdy. So yeah, I'm going to take the 49ers to hang around. All right, so then we got the 4-1 Lions against the 2-3 Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites. Lions are coming in red hot. Chiefs, yeah, that was a game they should have won. Turning point was that pick 6 by Mahomes. And it looks like there's going to be no Xavier Worthy in this game. So the Chiefs, yeah, they're in a bit of trouble. But once again, when everybody is doubting them, I think they're going to somehow find a way to win this game. I think they're going to find a way. Because how many times have we seen a team come in red hot? You got a team that, is kind of struggling. That's usually good. How many times that most people are going to take the team that's red hot, and then the team that's red hot ends up letting you down? This could be a letdown spot for the Lions. A reality check. Now, don't forget, a couple years ago, opening night, Lions went into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. Kadarius Toney had some costly drops, a bobble that led to a pick 6 by Brian Branch. Lions could go back in there and win again. Definitely could. But I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'm going to take the Chiefs to bounce back here. Then you got a Monday night doubleheader. Bills at Falcons, Bears at Commanders, and that's the rematch of the Hail Mary from last year. So the Falcons are 4.5-point underdogs against the Bills. Bills coming off of their first loss of the season against the Patriots. Falcons, right, they're coming off of a bye last week. Yeah, coming off of a bye last week. I don't trust this Bills defense. I don't. I think the Falcons, they're going to play well at home. I think Bijan Robinson, this is a game Bijan Robinson's going to have a big game. And maybe you see a little bit of Tyler Algier sprinkled in. I think Penix in this offense will move the ball against this defense. I think this game could be a shootout. So I think I'm going to take the points. I think the Bills will get the win, but I'm going to take the Falcons with the points at home. I think the over-under is 50. Yeah, I mean, I think you could see like a 33-30 game, something like that. I think that. Because I just don't trust this Bills defense. But I think Josh Allen will do his thing, obviously, and that offense. James Cook, look for James Cook to bounce back also, because he really did nothing against the Patriots. So yeah, I'm going to take the Falcons to cover, but the Bills to win. Then, rematch of last year. Bears, Commanders. It's tough. I think I'm going to take the Commanders to win. I might take them to cover also. There is no Terry McLaurin, so that does worry me. But the Bears' defense is just not that good. Not that good. I mean, the Commanders, they took advantage of the Chargers without several of their offensive linemen. They did take advantage of that. Caleb Williams, look, still a work in progress. The Bears are 2-2, and they're coming off of the bye. They could have definitely worked on some things in the bye. And the Bears, they should have won that game last year if it wasn't for the Hail Mary. But I think I'm gonna take the Commanders in this spot to win, and I'm gonna take them to cover also. Because between these two quarterbacks in their second year, I trust Jaden Daniels a little bit more in this game as opposed to Caleb Williams. Now, Caleb Williams is going to make plays with his legs, but if you remember from the game against the Vikings, he went too crazy with that, scrambling around. He didn't really stay in the pocket. Got to just relax, stand in the pocket, scan your progressions if you have to. Don't immediately take off, because I think this offensive line is better than what it was last year, and you got the weapons. That's my concern, is him trying to do too much and then it leads to a turnover. But yeah, I'm going to lean towards the Commanders, take them to win and cover. So to run through the games, Steelers to win and cover, Broncos to win and cover, Rams to win and cover, Cowboys to win and cover, Cardinals to cover but the Colts to win, Jaguars as the underdog to win and cover, Dolphins to cover but the Chargers to win, Patriots to win and cover, Packers to win and cover, Raiders to win, Titans to cover, 49ers to cover, Bucks to win, Chiefs to win and cover, Falcons to cover, Bills to win, and then Commanders to win and cover over the Bears. So those are my Week 6 NFL picks. Let me know what you think about the picks. What would your picks be for this week? And that's pretty much it. So as always, everybody make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video, to the channel. Also follow us on the social media platforms in the description below. And wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to us as well. Just look up Infinite Sports. You'll find us there. And as always, everybody, your host Kenneth Grunfelder signing off as I hit my mic. Have a good one. Have a good weekend. Talk to you guys next time. Take care.